Would you want to say the prayers, Ashwini ji?
ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी विद्यादानं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ॐ सद्गुरुदेवाय नमः। Hari Om to all Atmajyotis.
Hari Om. Okay, so today we will go over the most fundamental aspect of web that we deal with. Okay, and before that, let me start out by asking a question to you all. Asking a few questions to you all. First of all, does anybody know what is semantic HTML?
No, double G.
Does anybody know what is HTML?
It's a syntax, right? Creating web pages, right?
It's
a syntax.
Okay, it's a syntax. It's a markup language.
Yes, ML is markup language.
It's a language to represent the content that we read on the internet. It is one way of rendering the content on the internet, but it is the most popular way of doing so. Okay, hypertext markup language. Hypertext is usually when we mean that, text over internet. Hypertext means text over internet, and markup language is where, it's a language in which there is a structured way of representing the content or the text that we read over the internet. Now, what is the primary purpose and use of internet? What is the primary use of internet?
To make the content available for anybody around the world.
Okay. Anybody
For
else?
exchange of data.
Exchange of data, very good. Anybody else? Basically sharing information across larger group, right? But data can be exchanged in a lot of formats. Primarily, when it comes to web, World Wide Web, the data exchange that we try to do is more through text that is readable. There are other ways of exchanging information as well. There used to be other bulletin boards and FTP medium of exchange of information. But when it comes to web, as we know, the way we want to exchange information is primarily through web pages. Okay, and in web pages, what we want to read, what we want to access is information, text information, by various means, by reading, by seeing, by hearing, etc., etc. Okay, so websites you go to and you are able to access some information. Now, HTML is meant to represent that information in a structured way. Okay, so far so good. Anybody has questions on what HTML is?
Questions, Rahulji.
What is the purpose of HTML?
To represent the data in a structured way across
Structured
the
way.
across
Yeah.
the web.
Yeah. Structured way in which it makes sense to user as well as it makes sense to browser as well.
Ah.
Okay. As well as it makes
Difference
sense
between
to
user and
machines.
browser.
Hmm?
Browser means
So we are accessing the information through a browser, right? Through Chrome, Firefox, okay, or your mobile browser. So
correct.
browser should also know what is the structure of the information, and we can also derive, like, it should not be just one big text blob, and we are supposed to ourselves figure out what is a heading, what is a paragraph, what is a list, things like that.
Okay.
Okay. So to properly transmit the structure over the internet, there is a markup that has been decided by the HTML group. Okay. For example, in a page, if I want to indicate that this is the main heading of a page, okay, this is, say, for example, the chapter title,
Okay.
okay, or the page title, which indicates what is this page about, what is the content of this page, then that should be ideally represented by a tag called h1. This is the format of the tag. There is a beginning marked by this, and there is an end marked by this. And in between, we say that this is a page title. Now, this H1 represents that this is the topmost level title of the page, the most important title of the page. Okay. Similarly, there is another title here. This is a subtitle. Okay. There are multiple sections in the page, and this is a subtitle. It does not have as much of an importance as this title, but it is still a subtitle. So the way, it is proposed to represent this subtitle is this: through an h2 tag. Tags are the one which denote what structure this information is representing. Okay, there is this information. Okay, there is plain information here, which is page title. There is plain information here, which is page subtitle. But if I just get the information in this way from some website, neither I nor the browser knows that this is what is the structure of this information. And to display it correctly, to display this in big bold fonts, in a certain kind of font, in a certain color, browser needs to know that this is the main heading of the page. Okay, like in our newspaper, we will have one main big news. Okay, or the section title of the newspaper. Did this portion make sense?
Yes, Dhavalji.
Yeah, very much, Rahulji.
So the usage of tags is for representing what is the structure of this content. Okay, now this is a paragraph immediately after the heading. So there is a tag for paragraph as well, where I can say this is a paragraph. Okay, this is a subtitle again. Okay. So we can specify that this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph. So HTML is all about providing to the browser what is the meaning, structural meaning of the content that we see on the screen. Now, why this is so important? Why giving this information to the browser is so important? Without this information, what can happen? What will happen if there is no information given to the browser? Let us say the browser receives just this text. What will happen?
Will not know how to display it.
Sorry?
It will not know how to display it. We'll
Yes.
we'll just puts it as a simple text.
Yeah. So one is that browser does not know how to display this information because browser does not know that this is a heading and this is a paragraph and this is a subheading and this is something else. Okay. There are multiple type of tags in HTML. There are a lot of type of tags, but basically the purpose of using a tag is to convey a meaning of the information to the browser so that browser can display it properly. That is the essence of HTML. Okay. Now, there is one more reason we care so much about proper structure of HTML. Okay, there is one more reason we care so much about proper structure of the HTML. You know what is the reason? Can anybody guess?
User experience.
User experience, yeah. Any other guess?
Yeah, you can unmute and speak. Anisha has put in the chat.
I'm sorry, Ashwini ji, your voice is very feeble.
Anisha ji has put in the chat.
Anisha has a message that to make the things look more interactive.
Okay, make the things look more interactive. Okay. That's also a good one.
How
Okay.
our data is presented, the presentation.
Presentation. Okay. Who else would care about the meaning of the data? Apart from browser and users like us.
The one who is providing the data.
They will have to obviously care about the meaning. Okay, today I will give you a fundamentally different way of looking at the internet. And I'm warning you that you will never be the same after this, okay? You will look at the internet totally differently. There is a large portion of users who access the internet without looking at the content. Okay, there are a lot of people who are either visually challenged or they have other cognitive challenges and they use something called a screen reader. That means if they access this page, they are not going to look at this page.
Correct.
Okay. So how they can read this page?
Yeah. So if we have proper syntax and proper paragraph, title, like that heading, then it will be easy for them to audible. It will be audible for them. They will just.
Correct. So if the content is properly structured. Otherwise, what will happen? This blob of text will appear like this is a page title, this is a paragraph, this is subtitle. Now, right now, I'm writing it this way, but today's news something happened in India. Something happened in Bangalore. Okay. So since there is no differentiation between these three, what will happen is when the screen reader is accessing this, okay, when the screen reader is accessing this content, what it will do? It does not differentiate between either of these. Okay, so one problem is that it will serially read out all these as if everything is just one blob of text. Today's news, blah, 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 something happened in India, blah, 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 something happened in Bangalore, blah, blah, blah. Versus if there is a meaning to this, okay, H1, H1, P, कई जगह है? नो 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 वो रखना है भैया.
नहीं वो आयता आयता स्लाइड आयता
हाँ निकाल दीजिए, मैं फिर से डाल दूंगा. हाँ तो if you provide the proper structure in HTML, what happens when the screen reader is reading this?
It will pause, stress, and give a gap where to give.
Yeah, it will also say it out.
Yes.
It will say that heading.
Main heading,
Yeah,
subtitle.
it
everything
will
it
say it out. It will say it out loud. That heading, today's news. Paragraph, blah, blah, blah. Subheading, something happened in India. Paragraph, blah, blah, blah. Subheading, something happened in Bangalore. Paragraph, blah, blah, blah. So it says like that. Okay, if I specify one more level here, then it also will indicate that heading level 3, something happened in Bangalore, blah, blah, blah. So it specifies that meaning, okay, when it reads out the content. One more thing it can do is that if I tell that, just read the subheading of the page. In screen reader, I can also say that I just want to read the subheading of the page. Skip the heading. So what it will do? It will directly skip to H2. Okay. It can directly skip this content because the page knows how the content is, the screen reader knows how the content is organized. Does this make sense?
Yes, yes, Dhavalji.
Without it,
Yes.
it does not know how it is organized. Now the browser and screen readers know how it is organized. So because when somebody is accessing this page in a audio way through voiceover and screen reader and voice prompts, they can directly say that jump to this kind of content. Okay, if the page does not know, if the screen reader does not know, then it will not be able to do that. Okay, in the same way, there is a way of indicating some content that is a list. Okay, I can say that this is item 1, this is item 2, this is item 3. Okay, and if I just specify it like this, then the screen reader will read it out like this is item 1, this is item 2, this is item 3. No specific meaning to it. But if I specify that this is an ordered list, this whole section of text is an ordered list, and this is a list item in that ordered list. This is another list item in that ordered list. And the last one. Okay. Now the way it will read is that when the screen reader prompt comes here, it says ordered list, item number 1. This is item 1. Item number 2. This is item 2. Item number 3. This is item 3. Okay. So when you are indicating something like, say, recipe, ingredients, okay, the ideal way you would want to specify it out is through a list like this. Okay, you can say that this is a subheading, recipe, ingredients, and this is a list. Does this make sense?
Yes, Dhavalji.
Any questions so far?
No, this is quite easy to understand now. This is
This-
quite easy to understand now, Dhavalji.
Yeah. So this is called semantic HTML. Semantic means meaningful. Okay. Semantic means meaningful HTML. Okay. Now it is also possible to, why it is called semantic? It is also possible to do non-semantic HTML. Okay. There is something called CSS or styling through which you can make things look as if they are headers, but you can still use this kind of tags. Okay. So this defeats the whole purpose of HTML. Okay. You can also structure content in this way, but this will beat the whole purpose of HTML. Even though if it looks like, this looks like a heading 1, this looks like heading 2, this looks like heading 3, this also, let's say we provide P, and somehow by hook or by crook, we make these things look like a list on the page. The problem that will occur is that to a browser, it does not make sense. Although visually it looks the same, browser is only seeing all these things as paragraph tags. Secondly, when somebody with visual challenges or cognitive challenges is going through this page in an audio way through screen reader is just going to say that all these are paragraphs. It's not going to differentiate between this content. So the building block, fundamental building block of the web is semantic HTML. We need to ensure that what we represent on the page makes sense. Okay, it is meaningful in terms of HTML. And it only involves using the tag that we think is right for the content that we are developing. There are a lot of kind of tags. Okay, paragraph tag is there, header tag is there, footer tag is there, navigation tag is there. That means if there is a navigation on the page, we would want to use navigation tag and then the content of the navigation. Articles can be wrapped in an article tag. Okay. Then if there is some main section of the page, main content of a document, it should be wrapped inside main. Within main, if this is whole page is within main, then you would want to have article or section content within the page. Okay. Now this is properly, depicting what I'm talking about. We can either structure the entire page like this. All the content blocks are in something called div, which is a division box. Okay. Now the problem is that it does not make any sense to the browser. Although visually this content looks good, if I'm accessing it through a screen reader, this is not a header for the screen reader. This is not the footer for the screen reader. Versus if I use proper tags for the content, then the person using a screen reader can directly ask, what is the footer of this page? Or skip to the footer of the page, or skip to the article of the page, or skip to the header of the page. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And it's very important because you imagine the problems that people who are blind have to go through when, and this is a crime that a lot of people commit. And this is actually a legal requirement in USA. Okay. If you want to launch a site in USA, it has to be accessible by default. If you don't do that, there are penalties for that. Okay. It is a legal problem. So if Amazon has to launch a site in US, they need to ensure that it is accessible. Okay. Because somebody who is not able to see, imagine their challenges. They are not going to be able to navigate your site properly. They will have to go through the entire page in order to understand some minor section.
Correct.
Clear?
True.
Yeah.
All the time they would not want to go through all the section. I mean, we are visually capable, so we can just go to some section and figure out. Imagine they have to go through the entire page just to be able to read some section of the page.
And even for us also, it's not efficient way, no, Udhavalji. Time limit will be there. So whatever we are interested, we can go to that field and we can get the information and we can come back if it is organized properly.
Yeah, what I'm saying is visually organized is one thing. See, it can be still visually organized.
Yeah.
Okay. So that you can just browse around and quickly go to one section or the other. Okay. But when it is not semantically organized, if everything in the page is just a div tag, then even if it is looking good visually and proper visually, it will still not make any sense to the screen reader.
Correct.
Okay. For us, it is definitely a lot of other benefits are there if we make it semantic HTML. It will make you think, about things in a very proper way. Sometimes we get too attached to, the animations and colors of the page and this and that. But this kind of is a very good exercise which will take us back to basics. Okay, that how to even organize the content in a way that is accessible. Clear? How, when we think about that, it also forces us to think about things in a very proper, structured way. So this is our day one. Essentially, there is not much to it, apart from this. What you can explore more on your own is, what are different kind of tags used for different things in the page. But the purpose of using tags is this. Okay, you can look up the syntax of different tags. There are more complex tags like table, where they specify, okay, this is a, screen reader will say that this is a table header, this is a table row, this is a table cell. So if you use proper table tag, it will ensure that it reads it out properly. And then there are forms as well. Form is when users input something on the page. when there is a data entry happening on the page, like a text field or a selection field or a radio field or a checkbox field on the page, those are form input elements being used. So that also basic idea behind using those is semantic stuff, because we want to ensure that whatever we create has to be understood well by somebody who is not accessing the page visually. That is the exercise I always try to do. That is one of my interview questions for Amazon. When I was in Amazon, I used to ask that as an interview question, that now that you have created this page, tell me how a person without sight will access this page. Okay, that is when they were forced to think about the semantic structure of the page. Any questions
correct.
for
This
today?
is very interesting.
Yeah, very
No,
interesting,
this
and it
is very
brings us, it forces you to think in a proper way.
Yeah, now it makes sense very much. Yesterday, just a tax head, footer, like that going through, it was very vague. Why so many tags and all? Now it makes sense completely.
yes, it is meaningful now.
Now, and it is easy to understand also the tags.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Dhavalji.
Okay.
Thank you,
I,
Dhaval.
I think, that's all I had for today. We will discuss more on this tomorrow,
Yeah.
but it is getting you started probably, in the direction